close?
Yeah, I'm not touching it.
Do you mind if I record it so I can watch it again later?
Yep, that'd be fine. Did you guys well, I saw you here yesterday. Did you get a chance to come yesterday and look at the practice? Okay.
We need to label the circulatory system fluid. This is what you'll have. You'll have to know the parts, right?
I mean, it could be anything. I could ask you, like, what is this? I could ask you, where is that taking the blood? I could ask you, what is the flow of the blood from the gills to the stomach, which would involve this. So, I mean, it can be, like, there are several different ways I could ask you about the circulatory system.
I have a question. So, do we have to get 380 or 390 to have an A in the class?
390 is the total number of points. So you need to get whatever, like, I mean, so you don't actually get a grade for the lab. Whatever points you get in the lab go as 25% of your class grade. So if you, and it's whatever points you get in the lab. Like there will be, every semester there's like one person that gets like 102% in the lab. There'll be somebody that's got like 395.
Just like I was looking and I was making sure I was doing it right, but I think I have like 360 points right now. So then I was like, maybe I shouldn't stress about this as much.
Yeah. So whatever points you get will go with you into the class. So even if you get over, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's up to you. But not stressing is also
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Are you guys ready? Do you want me to ask you, or do you want me to just tell you?
Combination.
Okay. All right. So I always start with all of the blood coming back. So all of the blood coming back comes into this triangle structure.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
I got this sinus venosus.
Perfect. So from there, the blood goes into this thin-walled holding chamber.
Is that the atrium?
Excellent. And then it goes into the
Ventricle.
Great. And what's the job of the ventricle?
Does it like filter out the?
Nope. It's way less tricky than you're thinking. What's the job of the heart in general?
Just pumps it up.
Right. Is the atrium doing any pumping?
No.
Nope. So what's the job of the ventricle? Excellent. Okay. So the blood goes from the ventricle into this tube right here.
Something conus.
Mm-hmm. The conus arteriosus.
Okay.
Because now it's arterial blood leaving the heart.
Okay.
So it's the conus arteriosus. And then from that into, you can start to see it right here.
I believe
that
that's
goes up.
that little piece that's missing.
Yes, right, him. Right. Okay, so from, what was this?
Conus
Arteriosus. Perfect. Into the
I can't remember that one.
ventral aorta.
Okay. Does that include the branches?
No, it's just the up,
Okay.
not the branch.
Okay.
So, because the branches have their own name, they are carrying blood into the gills, so they are the...
Afferent bronchial artery?
Yeah, except it's branchial, B-R-A-N.
Branchial,
I know,
okay.
it's weird. You think it should be an O, but it's an A. Okay, so we've got the conus arteriosus, and then we've got the part that goes up, which is the...
The ventral aorta.
Perfect, and then the branches.
The afferent branchial arteries.
Excellent. And then the gills. And then, did you guys see yesterday on the test, the samples test? That's where I left it. Yeah. And so then you can see here it's coming out of the gill and then coming down to join the dorsal aorta. So what's this right here?
So that's the afferent. No, the efferent.
Excellent. The efferent, E for exit,
branchial artery.
branchial artery. And then those come together from all the gills to form the
Can't remember.
dorsal aorta.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got the ventral aorta is coming out here out of the heart, and then the dorsal aorta is right here,
Okay.
but it runs essentially from like right here all the way down, but on the dorsal side.
Okay, so it's right by the sternocleidomastoid.
Yeah, it's in between the kidneys,
Okay.
and then the mesonephric duct is on top. So what was this?
Dorsal aorta.
And what comes together to form the dorsal aorta?
The efferent branchial arteries.
Perfect. So the first branch of the dorsal aorta that we can see is this one by itself.
The hepatic. No. I
It starts
don't-
with the C. It's the celiac artery. So it's distinctive because it's just one by itself. Celiac artery. So the celiac artery is a branch off of the dorsal aorta. Branches up here, we really can't see where it comes off. And then it comes down and it's going to split into two branches, but one of those immediately splits again. So it splits into this branch here that's going to come off and run down this way. What's that one?
Is it something mesenteric?
Yep.
Is it the really pancreatico-mesenteric artery?
Perfect. Great. So that one comes off, and then there's the little short gastrohepatic artery, which if I ask you to write out like blood to the liver, you'll need to know. I'm not going to pin it and ask you what it is because it's really little. So the gastrohepatic artery immediately branches into this one that runs up toward the liver.
The hepatic.
Perfect. And this one that runs over to the cardiac stomach. Well, this little short one is called the gastrohepatic artery. So if this one's the hepatic artery, excellent, the gastric artery. So over to the cardiac stomach. Okay, so then we're going to pick back up with the pancreatico-mesenteric artery. It's going to come under here, and it branches into lots of branches, but the only one that we can see is this one here.
The something intestinal.
Right, what part of the intestine is it taking blood to?
The posterior.
Really?
Anterior.
Yes, because see, it's just this front part.
Okay.
Front is anterior.
Okay.
And you can see it just like dead ends. I mean, it doesn't,
Okay.
like, it just goes to that part
Yeah.
and then stops. So it's
Okay.
blood to the anterior intestine only.
Okay.
And then that branches a bunch of times to make these little arteries that wrap around.
Annular arteries.
Perfect. Okay, so all of that is off of
Celiac.
outstanding. Good so far. Okay, so then we come back to, what's this right here?
Dorsal aorta.
Excellent. And so then we're going to have this branch comes off, and you can see it just joins the intestine here at the back part. So it is going to be the
Posterior intestinal artery.
perfect. And then it also branches into branches that wrap around.
Annular arteries.
Outstanding. Then we've got this branch that branches off and runs. What's this organ?
Is that the spleen?
Perfect.
Splenic.
Well, it's the gastrosplenic artery.
Okay.
It's kind of confusing.
But if you ask, like, where does it take blood to, we wouldn't say anything with the stomach.
No, it doesn't take blood to the stomach. I don't know why it's called that. It's just just to the spleen, despite being called the gastrosplenic artery.
Okay.
And then we come back to the dorsal aorta for the final branch, which is right here. Do you remember what this is called?
Something renus? No.
No, it's the posterior mesenteric artery.
Posterior.
It's at the back of the shark and along this mesentery.
Okay.
So it takes blood to the
The rectal gland?
right, and what's the rectal gland to do? So the rectal gland specifically does sodium chloride balance between the shark's blood and the ocean water.
Okay.
So the kidney does all sorts of other salt and waste balance, but the rectal gland specifically does sodium chloride. make sure that this shark matches the ocean water. Okay, so that's all of the blood out.
Okay.
You know, all the blood out that we're going to learn comes as some kind of branch off of the dorsal aorta.
Okay.
All right, so then we're going to take the blood back from the digestive system. All of the digestive blood goes through the liver. Okay, so we're going to start here at the back of the shark. So what are these little veins that wrap around them?
Annular veins.
Great. And then here they empty into the
Posterior intestinal vein.
perfect. So it's going to come up to right here, and then this little short vein drains the back of the intestine. So it's going to be called the back of the spleen.
The posterior splenic vein.
Perfect. So these two come together to form something called the lienomesenteric vein, which runs right up here along the edge of the dorsal pancreas.
Okay.
So the lienomesenteric vein is going to come up, actually comes up right here, and then it empties into this super giant vein headed toward the liver.
Hepatic portal vein.
Perfect. So then, on the front part of the intestine, we've got more of these ones that wrap around.
Annular veins.
Perfect. And they empty into the
anterior intestinal vein.
outstanding, which comes up and joins this one that drains the front half of the spleen.
The anterior splenic vein.
Great. So those come together to make the pancreatico-mesenteric vein, which is right here next to the artery.
Okay.
So that's why the celiac artery is weird that it's by itself, because mostly they're together. They're always together. Not always,
What
they're
was
mostly
the
together.
Lenogastric,
lienomesenteric vein
Okay.
is this one, and it empties the posterior intestine and the posterior spleen.
Okay.
Come together to make the lienomesenteric vein.
Okay, so lienomesenteric and the pancreatico-mesenteric
Mesenteric.
vein. Okay.
So leno is an old word for spleen.
Okay.
So the lienomesenteric vein is coming from the direction of the spleen and is like in this mesentery. The pancreatico-mesenteric vein is coming from the direction of the ventral pancreas and is in the mesentery.
Okay.
So what was this right here?
The pancreatico-mesenteric vein.
Perfect. So it's going to come up and empties into the
Hepatic portal vein.
great. So then we have to get the blood back from the, what's this?
No, I'm losing it.
Positive, what's this?
That's stomach.
Which stomach?
Cardiac.
Perfect. Closest to the heart.
Sort of it.
So the cardiac stomach. So we have a vein that takes blood away from the cardiac stomach, and it is called the,
Cardiac.
no, what was the one called the artery that brought blood to the stomach?
Gastric.
The gastric artery.
That's right.
So this is the
Gastric vein.
gastric vein. Brilliant. So the gastric vein is going to come up and over and empties into the
Hepatic portal vein.
perfect. Okay, so then the blood will go in through the liver, and then it comes out the top of the liver through the two very small hepatic veins.
Hepatic veins.
So those are most easily seen on the model. They like poke right out.
Okay.
So hepatic portal vein, lots of blood into the liver.
Okay.
Hepatic vein, smaller amounts of blood out of the liver.
Okay.
And then the hepatic veins empty directly into the
Sinus venosus.
outstanding. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a side trip. What's this whole structure here?
Visceromentum.
Great, and it has three things in it?
The bile duct, would that be the hepatic portal vein?
Mm-hmm.
And can't remember.
Yeah, it was this little pink guy here that turned and ran up like that toward the liver.
Hepatic, just, no, I
No.
just said that one.
You said the hepatic portal vein,
Yeah.
and then it's the hepatic artery.
Hepatic
Oh, yeah.
artery.
So
Okay.
there's portal veins, which carry large amounts of blood, and then there's aortas, which carry large amounts of artery. There's no such thing as a portal artery.
Okay.
It's just the way it is. Okay, so lesser omentum has 3 things. Be sure that you know that. Okay, so then you can't really see any of this, but like out here on the outside of the kidney is the renal portal vein. You can't see it, you just have to believe me that it's there.
Okay.
So all of the blood from the muscles and the tail and stuff will flow into the renal portal vein. So the renal portal vein takes blood into the kidney through what's the one that means into? Afferent renal vein. So then the blood slushes about in the kidney, gets balanced for everything except sodium chloride, which gets balanced here. And then the blood leaves the kidney through the efferent renal vein. So renal is kidney. Yeah. So leaving the kidney, the efferent renal vein. Perfect. So then it empties into the posterior cardinal vein, which runs up here. And then the posterior cardinal sinus is that kind of balloony structure right there. And then the posterior cardinal sinus empties into the common cardinal vein, which is like that corner right there.
Okay.
And the common cardinal vein empties into the sinus venosus. Perfect. And then we just have to get blood out of the head, and you cannot see this in your sharks because it's underneath all this other stuff. It's kind of right here. But there is an anterior cardinal sinus right here, and that one comes around and also empties into this corner structure, which is called the common cardinal vein. And so you can also see that really well on the model, and I'm only going to ask you it on the model, so be sure that you can find it on there. And then the common cardinal vein empties into the
sinus venosus.
Perfect.
Okay. Also, I have a question. I think I was confused on the eye muscles. Like I was thinking it was like the top 2 muscles are both superiors. They are. Because I was looking at the paper online on it, and it made it look like it was like a superior and an inferior, and then like the middle muscles, and then like another superior.
Well, so it's like the superior, the inferior is directly below it.
Okay.
And so it's like superior oblique comes off this way, superior rectus, but then inferior oblique is like in the same place.
Okay.
So
that's what I was thinking. It was like the top 2 layers are superiors, and then the bottom 2 layers